Alright y'all, so after drawing a bunch of the Monster High chibis, I thought I probably know enough to decide on what I like about Monster High designs, so I'm redesigning them here. Before getting too far into this, please think of this as less of a continuation of any of the generations of Monster High. I used some of the lore from each generation to build my own general idea for an AU, or like another generation's thing. I've aged them up to college age, mostly because I was getting tired of the high school setting of every show, plus we're basically in high school in the third generation anyway. I know there are dormitory high schools, I went to one, but whatever. I just think having them go to college might be a more interesting avenue and would allow for more exploration of maybe more interesting topics. The lore of the characters were also rewritten a bit. It was basically me mashing together whatever I found most interesting about each generation. This isn't as successful with some, since some characters get jack shit for background information, but we'll get there when we get there. What's been playing so far is just the sketching / idealization time lapse. There was a coloring portion, but I edited it out since it would have really dragged on this part of the video. You really don't want to see me test 10 different fucking shades of purple that are barely different for Clawdeen. This part was already sped up from the original. Going on to the general ideas, I didn't toy around with a lot of designs I think, except for maybe a couple, since I mostly knew what sort of outfits I wanted to give everyone, so it's generally just like first sketch, we're good. I'll talk more about the specific choices in each character's respective part of the video. In general, when designing characters, I try to be more on the simplistic side, mostly in color palette. I try my best to keep it down to like 9 colors, but you know, I'll occasionally fudge these rules like with Frankie later. As long as it's cohesive, I think it's okay. In the individual portions, you'll see me put in the color palette as a 9-item diamond-shaped pattern. The top 3 are reserved for skin, eye, and hair color, so I really try to limit myself to 6 colors for the clothing, and hopefully less than that. Actual fashion-wise, I'll admit it, I'm not very good at that. Like, if someone were to show you a picture of what I like to wear and what kids choose to wear, you would say that they're the same fucking picture. Point is, I dress no better than like a 10-year-old. That's the role I got when my friends and I were filling out the gay chart apparently. Thankfully, Monster High already laid down the foundations for their designs, and a lot of my redesigns are just some of their old outfits retooled. There's a pretty big gap in aesthetic between the more emo goth Gen 1 and the more colorful Gen 3. I'm trying to go for somewhere in the middle, but like, you know, not Gen 2. For the more interesting / creative looks, it was basically just me on Pinterest searching for X style or fashion and slapping together whatever looks good. But also, some of them didn't have a specific style, and it was literally just me taking their old outfits, recoloring them, or giving them one additional statement piece. I love making eye-catching statement pieces for character design. Going over the brief ideas for each of the designs, for Frankie, it was pretty easy placing them in a more academic, semi-preppy goth look, if that makes sense. I feel like it resembles their G3 outfit the most, just with less colors and, you know, going for a bit more punk. Draculaura's was pretty easy, just went with a simple-ish pink gothic Lolita aesthetic. The trouble was making sure to give her some interesting elements and not just a pink and black dress. Clawdeen's was both easy and hard, since I really didn't know what style I was going to go for her, other than just general edgy cutting edge fashion. Honestly, it's just a copy of her G1 and G2 outfits. I know a lot aren't with me, but I really like G3 Clawdeen's outfit, but I'm also just a massive sucker for overalls. If I do more of these, I want to try and put the redesign Howleen in G3 Clawdeen's outfit, or like base it off that look. I actually put a lot of thought into Cleo's aesthetic, but I'm also not sure if my vision was clear, since it kind of clashes with how I wanted to present Cleo. The main problem was with her silhouette. She's meant to have this 1920s flapper inspired look, but I'm not sure if that really reads clearly with my final design. For Lagoona, I'm just gonna say it now, she's the one I took the most liberty with. Like, she doesn't look like any of her previous versions. I'm sorry. I kind of took the base elements of her G1 self, but once the colors are down, she does not look like any of them. Her redesign is easily the most self-indulgent thing here. Ghoulia's look was mostly inspired by tech wear, but with the main colors of her G1 self. The main idea for her was prioritizing comfiness rather than, fashion. I'm the most dissatisfied with Abbey since it's the most minimal, like with zero interesting elements. I tried to give her a Y2K look, but I'm not sure I can do better than G3 concept art. Also, I don't think the Y2K look is a good one. The colors, choosing the colors for her were a pain in the ass. Honestly, the shoes were meant to be Abbey's main feature, but I don't know how to do nice shoes. But that about sums up the general ideas I have for each character. I'm gonna go into more detail with the semi-new lore I cooked up for this rework. For this, I'm sticking with G3 non-binary Frankie, so it's they/them pronouns for this Frankie too. I think that would be AFAB, but they figured out they were non-binary pretty quickly. And before anything else, non-binary doesn't mean they look androgynous, it just means that they identify as non-binary. Okay, I saw this comment somewhere about Frankie, due to being an assembly of parts, could theoretically remove the breasts if they feel like it. I think that's a really cool / fun idea. Not really relevant anywhere, just neat. So they were the ones that originally inspired this whole redesign thing. Since before I even started drawing any of the chibis, I had thought, what if Frankie's scalp was made from different people with different hair textures? So that's basically what kicked off this entire thing. I had an old drawing of the concept, but I really didn't change much of the clothing or even really played with the difference in hair texture. So here, most of their hair is in tight black coils, but just their bangs are straight white hair. I guess it would be crimped to be in the lightning bolt shapes I gave them. I thought it would just be cool to style it this way, but it also kind of resembles the Bride of Frankenstein's hairstyle. I think their style is mostly G3, just with less colors. I kept on seeing these really cool half-skirt, short belt things when I was looking up punk skirts, but their top is more G1 with the tie and fishnet sleeves. The main thing when designing Frankie was keeping in mind some level of asymmetry, despite me not liking designs that are too asymmetrical. So they got the half skirt, one lightning bolt earrings, their shoes are in different colors. In the sketch, I just slapped a random belt on their thigh, but I realized it could probably work as a sock liner for their prosthetic, something more practical. Going to the lore I cooked up for them, I'm pushing Frankie back into the role of main character, since their naivete works really well in introducing people to this world and learning with Frankie. They're very book smart, but probably not very street smart. I'm going with the G3 backstory where Frankie is the child of 2 moms, not Frankenstein's monsters. Here they're the child of 2 human mad scientists, and I kind of want to reframe their relationship as like an adoptive family. They love each other, but as humans they perhaps lack the cultural knowledge of Franken monster parents. They all live in this monster college town. Frankie's family's a bit odd, being one of the few families in this town with human relatives. They're not hated or anything, it's just they're the odd ones out. Kind of ironic with them being humans. Part of Frankie's story will be kind of like G1, learning about their cultural heritage and maybe meeting Victor. I don't think Frankie cares much for meeting their quote-unquote bio parents, since they really don't have any, unless you count the people who donated their parts to Frankie. This would be more about Frankie learning about their cultural heritage and making friends along the way. I'm still thinking about what their relationship with Jackson and Holt would be, since those characters don't get along as well as Frankie does with human and monster relationship. For now, I think they will be, at the very least, very good friends. G3 redid Jackson's Jekyll thing into a whole different character, so I don't know where the middle point for me is. As a bonus for anyone who's looking really deep, some of Frankie's stitches are meant to be numbers that reference the major arcana. Nothing too deep, just something fun. There's 4 in total if you want to try and look for them. There ain't much to say about Draculaura's design. Looking at each of the generations, like stock art, I think mine looks the most like G2, which is weird since that's the only one it didn't like explicitly reference. It's a very simple design, just a poofy Lolita-esque dress with like some vampiric spooky motifs. I really liked her hat in G3, so yoinked. It feels like a more convenient way of keeping the sun off of her, but I imagine Draculaura still has her parasol. She was meant to have a bat-shaped collar, but it felt way too boring, so I swapped it out for a more decorative heart bat necklace thing. I wanted to experiment with different types of necklines, so Draculaura's neck is covered like most of the way by her dress. She has big poofy sleeves that travel all the way down her arms that go into like lace patterns. Conveniently, she's the most covered up of all my redesigns, which probably helps to avoid the sun as a vampire. The darker pink on her dress was meant to like emulate these Elizabethan slashings for this like pop of like color to, you know, spiffy up an otherwise generic pink dress. Originally she didn't have the web top layer, but it looked really boring, and then I was randomly reminded of Lisa Fire Emblem of all things. I really like her exposed Kremlin, so I decided to turn it into a web shaped, since it seems like Draculaura has that in the 3rd gen, and I made it into like a top section of her dress. I'm guessing it's something like a webbed exposed Kremlin. I don't know, that idea feels very gothic to me, which I think fits. Lore-wise, I didn't think of anything new for Draculaura. Her personality and background is like this weird mix of G1 and G3. Dracula is her stepfather, or at least non-biological parent, you know, like in G1. I like having the main trio display very like unconventional family dynamics, which I think is really cool. Personality-wise, she's probably this like perfectionist, but also like massive romantic. Again, this like mix of G1 and G2. I'm not sure where witchcraft fits into this equation. I don't know if I like it or not, but she probably has her own secrets that she's unwilling to tell. It's kind of shame. Draculaura is my favorite, but like it's really hard to come up with anything new for her, honestly. Alright, Clawdeen. Her section is the longest, but I feel like there ain't much to say, like, for her design. I had trouble picking a look to base her off of. Like, G3 gives her this sort of vintage, like, constellation astral look, but that so isn't the look I'm trying to go for Clawdeen. So I basically just retooled her design from G1 and G2. Here she has her G1 crop jacket, but with more fur. I basically just stole her green tube top from her G2 look. If you know Dion from Clueless, she wears this really cool, like, mostly black and neon undershirt number, and I was originally going to go for a simple black tube top, but I liked how Dion's look, there was this bright pop of color beneath, like, darker colors, so that's why I gave her the green undershirt. To be honest, I'm not a fan of green and purple. I ditched the skirt for some low-rise shorts, even though I don't like low-rise stuff. But to bring back some of the purple, she got some fashionably torn purple thigh highs and garters. I feel like she got them torn after, you know, fighting with Claude or like running through some bramble. Her shoes are pretty simple. It's a combo of her G1 and G2 look. While we're on shoes, I made the decision that werebeast anatomy in this world would just match whatever animal they're like a werebeast of. For example, werewolves and werecats would be digigrade. This basically means that they walk on their pads of their feet, if you've ever seen like cats or dogs. This means that Claude, I don't give a shit you're a dude, get in the fucking heels. The only other werebeast we know of in the Monster High universe is a fucking wererats. But, you know, rats are plantigrade like humans, so they can wear flats or heels, whatever suits their need. This was mostly done to add some, like, monsterness to these redesigns. Also, werewolves now have tails, because I don't think it's fair that werecats and wererats get to have tails, but werewolves don't. It was really hard mostly just to give that tail the right, you know, texture I was going for. There's not a lot of naturally curly wolves to look at. I tried to give her some box braids with some of it in a bun. From the tutorial videos I've seen, I don't think she needs the moon accessories to hold up the bun. You know, Clawdeen probably just thinks that she thinks it's cool. And tangent upcoming. While none of the characters really had races, except maybe Cleo, Clawdeen and the whole family seems to be really black-coated. It's honestly impressive how they managed to literally whitewash a character with no technical race. And further personal opinion, It feels like a shame that we never got a Clawdeen doll with an afro textured hair, because they were clearly able to do that with Honey Swamp, and Mattel had made a doll of Clawdeen with a cute short afro, and Howleen had curls before Mattel thought that wasn't girly enough, I guess, apparently. Moving to the lore, I'm bringing Claude and Howleen back as Clawdeen's siblings. Also, Claude is the older twin here. I try to be positive with most things, but I think the bullshit time dimension thing with Claude being the younger but now technical older brother in G3 is mondo dumb. Like, you made Howleen not related to Clawdeen, just do it to Claude too. Make him her cousin or something. Anyway, the wolf siblings are back, and all of them are half monster, half human. The werebeasts in the Monster High universe don't seem to become full human or animal, like, ever. They're just humanoid monsters with animalistic features. But this half human, half werebeast is meant to be like a riff on the traditional werewolves. Here on the night of the new moon, we'll say, they all become like full humans. Her parents are divorced, nothing malicious or anything. They're just better off as friends than romantic partners. They both still live in the same town, and they probably have younger siblings, but Claudia is the only other older sibling. Clawdeen is the one I thought up the most for, mostly because there is this massive difference in backstory between the generation. For Cleo, I actually put a lot of thought into her design. I adamantly did not want to put Cleo in another outfit that's just a mummy rat pattern. It's like the laziest way to convey that she's a mummy. So I wanted to mix like Egyptian iconography with 1920s fashion and maybe some Chanel. The goddess in Egyptian art often have these hair ties, which I thought could resemble some flapper headwear. I thought a lot of things, but like it was just really hard suiting up Cleo while making the character's personality really clear. I know I tend to draw characters on the skinny side, but Cleo here is meant to be like unnaturally skinny. Her waist is meant to be fucking tiny, and that's because most of her organs are just in canopic jars, which is confirmed in G3. Neat. I wanted to express that by showing off her like silhouette. You can see that it really cinches in, but the problem with that is that it clashes a lot with the silhouette of the 1920s garçon style, which is very, blocky. In the sketching phase, I gave Cleo a wrap skirt, but when laying down the initial colors, it made the bottom half of Cleo just really boring to look at. Then I saw this concept art for G3 Leah, which gave her these striped pants, and I was like, oh yeah. I only had one other character wearing pants in the sketch, so having more and broader clothing option is a nice bonus. Initially, I meant to give her bolder stripes, but when rendering them, I accidentally turned them into pinstriped pants. And I thought, it gave Cleo a much more professional, more masculine look, so I'm rolling with it. She's wearing a lot of gold jewelry, mostly bracelets, since I thought if I put them in a zigzag pattern, they could, kind of resemble, like, wrappings. Yeah, kind of. I chopped off most of her hair. I realize now that I think I just erased a lot of the character's bangs. Sorry, but I thought this shortest, blunt cut could look, vaguely 1920s, and I think it helps better resemble the hair or like headdresses of Egyptian gods and goddesses. She originally had a scarab and sun as the accessory in the headband, but I realized there was a stylized feather in Egyptian iconography, and it, totally matches the major I decided to give Cleo, so, point there. I'm kind of skimming on the lore here, mostly because I put more thought into her design than necessarily her lore, but it's this, again, mix of G1, G3. Her mom is, like, maybe dead. Cleo doesn't have the healthiest relationship with her dad or older sister. In my head, I'm picturing it as a narcissist, scapegoat, golden child dynamic, but I do want a happy ending where she and Nephra can reconcile and, escape the abuses of their father. Alright, it's the big one. So in the sketching portion, you don't really see the massive deviation in Lagoona's design, but once the colors are down, yeah. They honestly look more like Sidon from The Legend of Zelda, and the honest reason why is because I wanted a Monster High doll with red skin tone, because there's none. Like, I wanted Blue Lagoona, but I also really love G3 Lagoona. I'm so sorry. So we're here with this weird fusion where they don't look like either of her iterations, but I'm going to roll with it. First and foremost, she hit the gym, and she got a tail. The change in body type was mostly because, to me, Lagoona was always the sportiest / athletic one, you know? I wanted to give her a swimmer's build, but the optimal body plan for that sport doesn't look too different from, like, quote-unquote generically fit person. It's mostly lean with muscles and a broad back, so I tried my best to really push that Dorito build for Lagoona. The tail tangent was an effort to push her closer to looking like a shark. I'm reimagining some of the sea monsters as more blatantly based on sea creatures, which, you know, are sharks for Lagoona and her family. Random, but apparently Lagoona is part sea nymph, part sea monster, but I don't think this has ever been explicitly mentioned in any of the shows or movie, or like even somewhat talked about in like the Freaky Fusion movie. Either way, sure, I still drew them as more shark sea monster than nymph. There's like a total of maybe 3 nymph characters, so I don't really have a big enough reference pool for what nymphs are in Monster High. I'm interested in giving Lagoona a redesign another go once I think more about it / figure out more about how nymphs should look in this universe. Moving to the clothing, I wanted to make sure Lagoona's outfit was good for swimming, or, you know, could be easily removed for swimming. I mostly took notes from her G1 design. It's a simple 2-piece swimsuit. I wanted to keep the base layer simple because she has these 2 big statement pieces: her transparent aquatic top looking thing and a fishnet wrap skirt thing. The fishnet is filled with trinkets that I imagine Lagoona spooked off or took from humans as she's swimming near ships or by the beach. You know those gotcha summer beach outfits where it's like kind of a swimsuit but there's like translucent and extra stuff on there? Yeah, that's very much the energy here. But with, you know, some consideration for practicality, since she could really easily take off the extra layer, they aren't actually part of her swimsuit. Her hair was the first thing I thought of when making her, since I thought it would be fun to give her something like Fessel hair. She has fishtail braids on top, and then they transition into bubble braids. I toyed with giving her a partly shaved head, but I really liked how the bouncy, poofy hair framed her face better, and honestly, and weirdly enough, it decluttered that part of her design. For her personality, it's G1 on top, but G3 beneath that. She'll be the calm mom friend of the group, but it hides a fierce competitiveness and, you know, a prankster soul. Lore-wise, I'm keeping her as an international student. No decision about her nationality yet, but the 2 potential routes is that she's an Aboriginal Australian or a Honduran that moved to the other country and then became an international student in America. The idea here is that I wanted to be an interesting way to explore stories of, you know, third culture individuals. So basically everything about this Ghoulia is based on her G1 self, namely her colors and personality. First things first, Ghoulia has a mobility aid now. Finding the technical name for this crutch was really hard for some reason. They're called loft strand crutches. Forearm crutches are also another name, but I had a really hard time finding references with that name. Anyway, I think the crutches can be used as a pair or a single one. She put a couple of charms in the crutches, hopefully in a non-intrusive way. Let me know if that needs an edit. She has peripheral neuropathy in her left leg, mostly because that's the thing I'm most familiar with. She also has the biggest sway back look in G1, so here I'm just going to say that Ghoulia has lordorosis. G1 Ghoulia has this really cool rockabilly aesthetic, while her G3 look is like generic soft grunge nerd, I think. So I went with neither. I put her in a vaguely tech wear outfit, but with a focus on comfortability. She has an extremely cropped, split color blocked sweater with a sports bra and mesh underlayer. She has some patterned cargo pants with a fanny pack. I'm trying to make sure she doesn't carry too much weight on her shoulders. Originally the dot pattern were meant to be on her top, but I thought the split color was less complicated to do and much more eye-catching, you know. One maybe reference I have for her G3 self is that I gave her 2 pigtails, but they're braided here. I made them extra long. Think of this as a reference to the absolute volume that is her G1 hair. And congrats, Ghoulia got to keep her bangs, unlike other characters. The oddly green headband from G1 has been transformed into a pair of headphones. The attempt to draw and place the headphones made me realize that I have no fucking idea where the ear goes on the head, apparently. But alright, it's a learning experience. Honestly, I didn't put too much thought into Ghoulia's look. It all came together pretty smoothly. Moving on to the lore, it's kind of weird. In G1, apparently Ghoulia wasn't turned into a zombie. This might be for G3 too, but she was born to zombie parents, which on the surface is fine, but it's the fact that zombies are undead creatures that confuses me. Like, is there a difference between transformed zombies and born zombies? Because one group gets to live 2 lives and the other is just one. It's just one, but they're both immortal, you know? That all aside, I'm not working with much when it comes to Ghoulia. I feel like she always gets shafted for other characters' attention, or like fucking blipped out of existence and replaced like in G2. Poor Ghoulia. She probably has the most basic home life out of all the characters. I mean, her parents can be kind of strict with her. She's a huge fucking nerd, but her parents won't let her attend the cons she wants to go to. I think that she would be the friend that constantly judges their friends for like the dumb shit they pull, but you know, she goes along with the fun of it and then is there to solve whatever problem they got themselves into. Outside of that, Ghoulia is probably just pretty much a homebody, I think. Her room is filled with plushies, pillows, and blankets, a book, and, you know, whatever hyperfixation she has in the moment. And, yeah, that's about it. Sorry Ghoulia doesn't get much. It's hard to work with sometimes. And we arrive at Abbey. Abbey's redesign, I feel, is the weakest out of all my redesigns. I genuinely think her G3 concept art with the translucent thing is like the best thing ever. For me, I try to roll with the Y2K look, but again, I'm not a huge fan of Y2K, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I tried to look at some reference pictures, and the main things that caught my attention were leg warmers, mini skirts, chunky shoes, very bottom heavy design stuff. Originally the top was much more boring, like literally just a graphic tee with a gradient, kind of like her G3 look. I gave her this jacket thing, but hopefully she doesn't look too similar to Clawdeen with the purple jacket, you know, fur trim thing. One thing you might have noticed is that I try to put a shade of black on every character to, you know, unify them, give them that semi-dark look. It was kind of hard to do that for Abbey, who's a snow/winter themed monster. I tried looking at Ever After High's Spring Unsprung line to try and grab some pointers, but that only helped a little. I wanted the hair to be the most eye-catching thing about Abbey, since I really didn't go too wild with the colors of other characters' hair. I thought purple might be an underutilized color for cold, and it kind of works as this midpoint for Abbey's trans right hair. I've also gave Abbey a bindi. I found one picture on Wikipedia to show that like white bindis do exist, but I couldn't find a meaning or further explanation. I wish I could have put more Nepali influences on Abbey's look, but I didn't know how to work those in. Nothing has really changed in this theoretical AU. Abbey's mostly the same as her G1 inspiration. One weird thing that really confused me about G1 Abbey is her weird Russian accent, even though she's not, I don't think she's from Russia. You know, maybe her family is Russian and they just moved to the Himalayas. Here she's just Nepali, and she has relatives like Marisol that lives elsewhere. Her personality is closer to G1, and I haven't really been up to date with the cartoon and her personality there. Whatever changes they made, I don't think it could be better than G1. Thanks for watching this video, and sorry for rushing some of the parts. I'm not really sure how pacing works yet. This video took a really long time for me to make, not just the designing and drawing actual art part. I tried making this video 2.5 times before finally forcing myself to just go gung-ho with the art. I'm constantly judging my art, and I've completed the 2.5 full sets of sketches that I kept on scrapping. I just really had to tell myself to just draw, stop looking back, to make the video just go. It's a lesson I have to just keep relearning. What's been flying behind me is just the characters in the heights I jotted down for them. You can see this real quick drop between Frankie and Draculaura, who are the shortest and tallest of the group respectively. I'm interested in doing more of these videos. I find character design really fun and really interesting. Maybe I'll rework some of the side characters like Deuce or the Wolf siblings. Alternatively, maybe a whole other show that's not Monster High next time, like Miraculous or Winx. I think they're very interesting shows. Please let me know if you're interested in any of these potential videos. See y'all!